Hello everyone! While we're at the subject, I thought why not make another video to finish the London Chess Classic series. So this is the game 4 from the tie breaks, Fabiano Caruana versus Jan Nepomniachtchi. First 3 games were drawn, and this is game number 4. After the game, Caruana said in an interview that his game against Michael Adams lasted for 6 hours. So he was simply too tired to be nervous or anything. He just sat down and played. So let's see this game. Caruana has the white pieces and he plays e4, c5, the Sicilian defense, knight to f3, d6, and bishop to b5 check, the canal attack. Bishop to d7, we have a4, knight to c6, Caruana castles, g6, c3, knight to f6, and the d4. C captures on d4, C captures on d4, and the bishop to g7. We have knight to c3, Nepo castles, h3, and a6. Bishop to c4 and rook to c8. And it seems like this is a good time to play bishop to b2, b3, or maybe bishop to a2, since the rook lined itself up with the bishop. But rook to e1 by Caruana. There is no immediate way to take advantage of this relationship. So Nepo goes knight to e8, and here definitely there are some tricks on the board. Bishop to b3 by Caruana. If Caruana played something like queen d3, okay, you are protecting the bishop on c4, but then Nepo has this bishop captures on d4. And after knight captures, knight to e5, now you're attacking both the queen and the bishop. So bishop captures on f7 would have to be played just to grab back the pawn. Rook captures, and after queen to d1, it's a good position for white, but this is a 10-minute game, so no reason to give Nepo activity of the pieces and open files for the rooks. So after knight e8, bishop to b3 by Caruana, knight to a5, bishop to a2, and now knight to c4. And knight to c4 is a bit over-optimistic. Caruana takes advantage of this swiftly. Queen to d3 now, with a double attack on the knight. And here Nepo decides to play b5, which is essentially giving up a pawn. But if you play something like knight to a5, then b4 is coming, knight c6, rook b1, this pawn is ready to be pushed to b5, and this is a whole lot of expansion for white. It would be a very unpleasant position for black. So after queen d3, Nepo decided to go for b5, a captures, and b3 now, kicking away the knight, knight a5, and knight captures on b5. So Caruana grabs a pawn. Queen to b6, threatening the knight, knight goes to a3, knight to c6, and knight to c2. So Caruana is up a pawn, but still it's hard to convert. It's a 10-minute game. Knight to c7, bishop to e3 now, threatening moves like d4. Queen to b5, we have queen to d2, d5, e5 now blocking this dark square bishop. It's now not a very good piece. Bishop to f5, and we have rook e to c1, knight to e6, and knight to e1, bishop to e4, knight to h2, not allowing bishop to capture, knight to b4, rook captures on c8, rook captures on c8, and now bishop to b1, h5, not allowing any knight g4 to h6 ideas, knight h to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c2. Bishop captures on c2, queen captures on c2, and rook to b8 now. Knight to d3, and here we have bishop to f8. You can't grab this pawn, the knight will be hanging on c6. So after bishop f8, rook to b1, protecting the pawn, knight to g7, knight to c5, and now knight to f5, attacking the bishop on e3, and we have e6. And probably the best move would be something like to push f6, but then knight to d7, and you have a monster outpost for this knight on d7. It would be very unpleasant. So after e6, bishop to g7 was played. We have e captures on f7 with check, king captures, and knight to d7 now, attacking the rook. And this is the position Nepo was going for. He played knight c captures on d4, and we have knight d to e5 check. Bishop captures, and you have to capture this with the bishop. If you play something like king to g8, then bishop captures, and after knight captures, you lose a piece. You can't capture the knight because your queen is hanging on b5. So after this, knight d to e5 check, Nepo captured it, knight captures, and now king to e6. Bishop captures, knight captures, and it seems like this is losing a piece since the queen is attacked, but this was actually Caruana's idea all along. Queen captures on g6 check, giving up the e5 knight, king captures on e5, and rook to e1 check. And this is a beautiful position. Now Nepo has a choice. He can either play king to f4, this is the only move with the king, or he can block knight e2. If he went king to f4, this actually leads to a very quick checkmate, g3 check, king f3, and queen to h5 checkmate. So after rook to e1 check, he had to play knight to e2, and now comes king to f1, attacking the pinned piece with the king. Oh yeah. King to d4, rook captures, and e5. So Caruana is up a pawn, but doesn't really matter. The real strength is Nepo's king on d4, and this is again completely winning. But both players are very, very low on time, and you know, you have to play precise moves. Queen g3, e4 was played, queen to e3 check, king e5, king to g1 now, not allowing any back rank ideas, so king to h2 will always be an option. Queen captures on b3, now queen to g5 check, king goes e6, queen g6 check, king d7, and now rook to d2. We have h4, sort of not allowing the queen to capture it immediately. Queen to f5 check, king c6, queen to f6 check, king c5, queen to d4 check, and king to c6. Now queen back to f6 check, king c5, and queen captures on h4. Just making sure, you know, you're always up a pawn. Rook to b7, queen to d8, rook to b6, queen to c7 check, rook to c6, queen to a5 check, king goes back, queen to d8 check, king goes back to c5, and now h4. E3 now, but queen to e7 check. King goes to b5, now queen to b7 check. Rook has to block. If you play any move with the king, then you lose the rook. If you play, unless you play king c5, but then you just lose the queen straight up. So after rook to b6, rook captures on d5 with check, king to c4, and now comes the finisher, queen to f7. E captures on f2, king captures on f2, and in this position Nepo didn't yet resign, but there isn't a good move here for black. He played queen to b2 check, and now simply rook to d2 check, and you lose the queen. There is nothing to play here. King c3, simply capture, capture, and king g3, and queen and 2 pawns against the rook is too easy to play. There was a maneuver Nepo could have gone for example, after this e captures on f2 and king captures on f2, he could have went for this annoying rook to f6 line, but after queen captures on f6, queen c2 check, and king g3 now capturing. Again, it's queen and 2 pawns against the queen. Maybe in some crazy universe you could maybe create some masterpiece draw from this position, but very unlikely. So yeah, after this e captures on f2, king captures, and rook to d2 check, Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned the game, and Fabiano Caruana is the winner of the London Chess Classic 2017. So yeah, that's the game. This is the game from the tiebreaks, round 4. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Mark Gami for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. I will make both of them also games from the London Chess Classic. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon.